Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Four Persons. We've got a little podcast here this morning. We're going to try to do this as a regular Monday feature. So I figured we get started, Richard. I want to kind of get started with your background with the Four Persons. I want you to go through how it started, how you came to be introduced to the Four Persons, and then kind of the little twists and turns it took from there. So what's the starting point?
Well, the starting point would be Terry's show. Um, I saw
That's
some
Terry Delp.
Terry Delp. I saw some notices about his show and giving a phone number, and so I made it a point to call in. And that's when I talked to you and Terry for the first time. Um, and then I was offered an opportunity to do a daily show on Divine Mercy and the Saint of the Day, which I did for a couple of years. And if I can get my life back eventually, I'd like to start doing that again. Um,
Well, let's
but
let's pause for a second there, because I want to. At that point, I had yours was one of the names, hundreds of names that I had seen come up regularly on Facebook, commenting on articles, posting your thoughts or whatever. Um, but we had never actually interacted until that point. But you had already, by that point, you had already had a presence on Facebook for many years, right?
I had, gosh, I've been on Facebook since 2009.
Right. So you were familiar with some of the other people that were out there that had, you know, platforms and shows and what have you. But this is the first time that you were actually invited to interact with one, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So you came on Terry Delp show, which was taken to the streets, and right now Terry Delp is stationed outside of the country, so that's why we don't have really much of a presence of him right now. I don't know when he'll be back, but his program was called "Taking It to the Streets," and it was kind of geared towards taking the Catholic message to the ordinary people, which is part of our mission of evangelization
Right.
in the church. Now, then you started your own show. We did the Divine Mercy on Blog Talk Radio, and
Correct.
that worked for a while until Blog Talk Radio started having this just constant log jam of technical problem after technical problem after technical problem. Sometimes they would go on for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
and
I
then,
think we were off the air for like a month once, right in the middle of St. Andrew's Christmas novena, if I'm not mistaken.
yep, yep. And then they finally threw in the towel and went belly up. And but I want to talk about our time at Blog Talk Radio. While we were at Blog Talk Radio, um, we were one of the top 10 Christian shows on Blog Talk Radio in the Christian category.
Yes, we
And
were.
we were the number one Catholic show on Blog Talk Radio, and it really wasn't close. Um,
Correct.
during the reign that we were there, we had a couple of number one shows and multiple top 10 and top five shows. Um, and that didn't sit well with a certain miscreant from Kansas.
Correct.
Um, and I was really struck by your initial reaction. It wasn't just you either. It was you, it was William, it was Luke, it was a number of people on our platform. Your initial reaction was that perhaps this guy, wasn't as bad as I was making him out to be. That peace could be made, and that that maybe I was overreacting a little bit, and I understand why you saw it that way. Um, and he kind of tried to entice you and several others over to his side,
Right.
and he kind of made the pitch that he had better content, he had more exposure, he had more listeners, all of these things. Um, First of all, let's start with you tried to offer the olive branch. You tried to be kind of an intermediary between the two of us in attempting to make peace between the two sides.
Correct.
Let's start there. How did that go?
It didn't go very well because he didn't see any reason to make peace. He saw every reason to just continue the attacks. Um, and even when I finally convinced him to not attack, he couldn't help himself, and he kept going after us.
And oftentimes with no provocation whatsoever. I mean, we would go months at a time without saying anything about him or anything even implying him, and then out of the blue he would start attacking us again. So at that point, you realize, number one, that he wasn't sincere in he really wasn't interested in making peace, and he wasn't interested in having any kind of relationship with you, except in the sense of how he could use you against me.
Yeah,
Um, did that strike you as kind of narcissistic?
very much so. It was clearly that he would deal with me as long as it was beneficial to him, and as long as he thought that I could get you to stop going after him, because you know as it applies to you and him, he was bringing a knife to a gunfight.
Yeah. So,
You clearly had the more developed cranial capacity than he did.
yeah.
And
Not that that's a high bar to clear.
well, that's not a high bar to clear. No, it's definitely not.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's
you
talk
know,
about the quality of the material that we were putting out. And when I say we, I don't mean just you and me, but I mean the entire four persons team. And we've only gotten better, but talk about at that point, what was the disparity between the quality of the material that was being put out?
we were putting out far superior material, to the point that he had to copy and paste straight off of other websites, award-winning websites, I might add, in order to get anything at all, and in order to even have a chance at coming close to what we had.
So he was openly plagiarizing in order to try to be competitive.
To the extent that he would include their ads and their names in his articles.
Right, right.
But at no point did he say it was theirs.
And what it really did, it kind of backfired on him in one respect, because it made it very easy to see what was his content and what was content that was taken from someone else, because in his content there were run-on sentences, there were multiple misspelled words, the punctuation was a mess. We actually at one point took one of his articles and entered it into an AI search engine, I think it was Grok, and asked it to tell us the grade level of the person who wrote the article. Do you remember what it said?
I think it said second or third grade.
I think it was third or fourth grade. was grade level of
Somewhere
the,
between second and fourth.
yeah, which is just astounding. Now, as far as reach and as far as audience, what did you determine? Was that comparable? Was his audience comparable to ours?
Only to the extent that they were pulling your recordings that you had done over the time working in concert with him.
Yeah.
Otherwise, our audience was a much larger audience than his. We had people that were regulars that would send messages and tell me what they thought of our shows that you and I did together, and I assume people did with Lisa and William and Terry.
Yeah.
And Ken.
Yeah. And if you did a Google search for his blog, um, and the top 20 results that would come up, as you pointed out, like 17 or 18 of the top 20 articles would be articles that I did.
Right.
17 or 18 of the top 20 shows would be shows that I did. Those were the only shows and articles that people were going back to. And part of that was because and a lot of the members of the Four Persons are former members of that group. And that people were complaining to me at the time, like Terry Delp, for instance, was complaining to me at the time that every show that we did, every blog talk radio show that we did, sounded like every other blog talk radio show that we did, because he was doing it's just the same cookie cutter, mentality with the same 5 or 6 people calling in. We're all members of the group. And it was almost like, you remember during the 1980s, you had those party lines on phone, the party phone lines.
Yeah, where you dial that 976 number and got like 8 minutes with a bunch of other people.
Yeah, he basically turned the Blog Talk Radio show into that, and even while I was still there, I was trying to do innovative shows. I was trying to do different stuff, creative stuff. And you heard some of the stuff that I put together.
Yes.
Some of the videos and audios that I put together. Some of it was very creative, painstaking work, but I couldn't do every show. And he just wasn't willing to pick up the slack and put any effort into it whatsoever. And he also wasn't willing to put in any effort into the social media presence. So it's basically everyone else was doing all the work, and he was trying to take all the credit. And it was very much ego driven. Everything was centered around himself, constantly promoting himself and his viewpoints.
Right.
And he really had a problem with somebody disagreeing with him on something.
Oh yeah, he did.
I mean, he took it personal. Okay. And some of the things that he took personal were comments and critiques about things that shouldn't be featured in a Catholic podcast. Okay. For example, in a Catholic podcast, it is okay to talk about political issues, political beliefs, moral positions. In fact, it's encouraged to take moral positions on issues, and you and I certainly don't shy away from that.
Correct.
But in terms of openly endorsing certain political candidates, that's verboten.
Yeah, well, it's exactly verboten. It's called, we've got a non-profit, which means we could lose our non-profit status if we support any, openly support or endorse any candidate.
Right. And the problem is that he was openly endorsing candidates who, in many ways, did not hold or did not were not faithful to those very uh, strong Catholic ideals and positions. And over the years, as there's been tension between these political candidates, one in particular, and the Catholic Church, he would take the side of the political candidates.
Yeah,
Is that fair to say?
that would be very fair to say.
Okay. Which is just an absolutely ridiculous thing for a Catholic blog to be doing, a Catholic podcast to be doing, because you're there to promote Catholicism. And to the extent that a political candidate is on board with what we believe, we're in their camp. To the extent that they're against what we believe, we're against them. And that's one thing that I've been very, very proud of myself and yourself in particular, and some of the other members, is that you're not going to stick an R or a D next to our name. Sorry, it's not going to happen.
Can't do it.
Not going to happen. Okay. If we think candidate X is right on issue A, we'll say that candidate X is right on issue A. But that doesn't mean you're going to put us in a box and say that we've got to agree with everything that candidate X stands for. Sorry, you're not going to do that. Not
Exactly.
Okay. So there was an open pull for him to try to pull you over to his side. And not only you, but Ken, Luke, William, Lisa. It just basically told all of you that your futures were going to be completely ruined if you stayed with me, and that you needed to come over to his side and everything. And while at the same time, he was actively trying to steal our content and steal our members, he was talking out of both sides of his mouth and talking about how superior his platform was and how we all wanted to be like him. Did you immediately recognize the contradiction there, or did it take you a while to recognize that?
I pretty much immediately caught on to the contradiction. And by that point, I was solidly in your camp, and my mother and father taught me a long time ago that you leave the dance with the one that brought you.
Yeah. So, in terms of this hostility that was between me and him, and it obviously was there.
Yes.
You gave him every opportunity to demonstrate his side.
I did.
Is that fair to say?
That's absolutely fair, because I did.
Okay. And you gave me every opportunity to demonstrate my side.
Yes.
And the both of us were saying some very harsh things about each other. But over course of time, you came to realize that one of us was telling the truth, and the guy from Kansas was being, shall we say, less than honest.
Correct.
What kind of led you to those conclusions? To led you to look with incredulity on some of the things that he was saying, that some of the things that he said didn't add up? What started to lead you down that trail?
Some of his content, to be honest. I mean, it was good content when it was used by Franciscan media, but when it was copied and pasted into you name it Catholic blog, and whatever, I don't even remember his Catholic blog name and don't want to advertise it if I did.
Right.
But when it was copied and pasted into his blog, it was obvious that he wasn't doing anything original.
Yeah.
And when I saw your work pushed off by him as his, I realized that he wasn't playing with a full deck.
Yeah. Now, during the course of our exchanges, our combat with him, some very serious allegations were made against him by members of his own parish.
Yes.
And the ironic thing about that is that we would not have even known about those allegations had he not posted about it himself, and he was posting about it in an immediately overtly defensive posture.
Yes.
Okay. So Richard, let me ask you something.
Okay.
If you were sitting in a church or some kind of a social setting, and you were, I don't know, listening to the choir, reading a book, saying your prayers, whatever it was that you were doing,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody approached you and said to you, "Hey, sir, we don't know who you are, and there's little children over here, and the parents kind of don't know who you are and don't know what you're doing here, and they kind of feel uncomfortable about your presence." What would you do? What would your reaction be in a situation like that?
I would leave, because if my presence is making somebody uncomfortable, I certainly don't want to make it more uncomfortable by sticking around.
Right. Would you be combative with them?
No,
Would you be
absolutely not.
confrontational with them?
Absolutely not.
So so let me put you now in the perspective. You're going to change hats here now,
Okay.
and you're the person that comes over to talk to the certain person. Okay. And the
Okay.
person reacts just as you claimed, that says, "Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I understand the parents' responsibility is to protect their kids, and I deeply regret if my presence here is making anybody feel comfortable. Let me go find somewhere else to go and read my book."
Exactly.
You would be completely disarmed by that. You'll be like, "Okay, obviously this guy was just sitting here reading his book. Obviously he means no harm, no problem, no foul here, right?"
Exactly.
Okay. But if the person suddenly got defensive, okay, to the point where now it's being elevated to the pastor, okay, and the pastor comes and informs the person that, "Hey, listen, some concerns have been raised, certain accusations have been made of you stalking children," okay, and the
Right.
pastor kind of gives you the benefit of the doubt and says, "Here's what I need you to do. I need you to stand clear. Go off by yourself and just stand clear until we got time to sort this all out, figure out what's going on, and the whole thing should blow over." Okay.
Right.
But the person you say that to then immediately goes and confronts some of the people who brought this to the attention of the pastor in a very aggressive way, so that the pastor now has to get involved and say, "Hey, I told you, not to go over and confront this person. I told you to leave this person alone." And now it's amped up to the point where the pastor is now threatening to call the police if you don't leave. Evaluating that situation, Richard,
Well,
how much has your suspicion level gone up about the person in question now?
he protesteth too much.
Yeah.
Um, that's really going to throw up a whole lot of red flags in my mind as the pastor. Um, and of course, I'm going to then seek uh, to investigate, and I'm going to bring in the archdiocese or the diocese
Right.
to, to investigate.
Right. So then, when that happens, when the pastor confronts him and says, "Listen, I told you to stay away from these people. Let us do our investigation. Don't be involved. Blah 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 blah. And if you don't leave now, I'm going to have to get the police involved." Okay. He then goes to his blog and goes into just a screed over the next few days of attacks against the pastor. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he also attacks the parents and says that they're only attacking him because they're leftist, radical Joe Biden supporters. And now, the pastor is supposedly in cahoots with them and all this other stuff. Now, Richard, I'm going to say something very uncomfortable here
Okay.
because you and I both, unfortunately, are more familiar with this kind of thing than either one of us would like to be.
Yes.
Okay. And that's as far as I'll go with that. But you and I understand what the profile of a predator looks like.
Yes.
Okay. Is this guy now, with everything that I've outlined here that actually happened, is this guy starting to check off boxes in that profile?
He's checked off just about every box. I mean, he protested too much. He launches an attack. Um, he storms off and goes to a different church.
And he's confronting witnesses.
And he's confronting witnesses.
Now, a person who is confronting witnesses is doing what? He's trying to find out what they know, right?
Well, and he's also trying to subtly bully them.
Mm-hmm. Now, does an innocent person do that?
No, sir.
It doesn't fit the profile of an innocent person.
No, it does not fit the profile of an innocent person.
Okay. Because even at this point, even if the point where the pastor is confronting him, if it were you or I, our reaction would be, okay, you know what? You want me to leave? I'll leave. No problem, Father. You want me to leave? I'll leave. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do after you do your investigation and you find out there's nothing here, I'm going to be expecting some people to apologize to me.
Yes.
Okay. You might say that, but you're not going to be trying to get to witnesses, find out what they know, asking them questions. And then under the pretense of, well, I just went up because I had to bring communion to my wife who's sitting in the pew. That would be the job of a Eucharistic minister, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
Have you ever heard of somebody just willy-nilly taking it upon themselves to go up and get an extra host so they could take it back to their wife?
No.
That's not really ordinary behavior, is it?
That's not the way we do it.
Right. So there's nothing about this situation that is ordinary. And again, because you and I are familiar with the profile of this type of person, more familiar than either one of us would have ever hoped to be.
Yes.
And it is a horrible crime. It is a detestable crime that somebody could harm kids in this way. But then when all these things came to light, all the rest of his psychotic behavior started to kind of make sense, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Because that's also part of the profile. The profile of this type of a person is a person who's always promoting himself, always trying to paint himself as being above reproach, okay, larger than life, so to speak.
Mhm.
Okay. It's just part of what they attempt to come across with. Okay.
Right.
Um, and that fit what he did to the T, even to the point of he would start name dropping,
Which
pretending
he's
that
good
he
at.
had certain professional relationships with people that he didn't. Steve Ray, for instance, was one example.
And you're right. I mean, he's very adept at name dropping.
Right. And then stealing other people's material, slapping his moniker in front, and passing it off as his own material. All right. So he's trying to build this. He's trying to build a persona of himself. It's all pretense. Everything around him is pretense. Well,
Exactly.
does that not just add to the suspicion?
It does. It adds to the suspicion in that it's all about self promotion. It's all about um um oh gosh, what's the word I'm trying to use?
Self-aggrandizement.
Self aggrandizement. Exactly.
Mhm.
Um, trying to think of that psychological word that starts with an N.
Narcissism.
That's the one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I kept wanting to go Neftali, and I'm like, no, it's not that.
So you and I started commenting, started posting, and started commenting about, you know, hey, dude, okay, you should automatically know that this is not cool behavior. You shouldn't be posting pictures of little kids on your website.
Yeah,
Okay, you should automatically know that that's you know off limits. Um, you shouldn't be sitting by yourself staring at little kids practicing in a choir practice. Okay, and then putting up a protest. You shouldn't be attacking the priest. All of these things just are just red flag after red flag after red flag. Um, and then he started coming at us even worse than he had been before.
yes.
And the things that he was saying about us were so crazy, so insane, so over the top that again you start wondering, okay, what's his agenda? Do you remember some of the things he was comparing us to Nazis, to Klan members? I mean, you know,
He called us everything but children of God.
and and it was kind of funny because he at one day he would say that we were all a rat pack or whatever his insult of the day was, but then the next day he's sending you messages telling you to come over to his side. Oh, he was kind of sending mixed messages. What were the kind of messages he was sending you, thinking that I didn't know about it?
Um, that he would give me my own show, that I'd be happier over there. Um, but John knew about it all the at all times because he even helped me craft some of my responses, like asking if I would have creative control over my show, and he would never answer that,
Right,
which tells me I wouldn't have.
right, because he wanted to control the message.
Exactly.
Okay, and you even challenged him to a debate.
I did.
Okay, and we wanted to have the debate on a neutral platform.
Correct.
Yeah, he wouldn't go for that at all, would he?
He wanted it on his platform so that he could control what went out and what was said and what was later shown to be the quote unquote record.
Right, right. And he started blocking comments on his site so that he would make all these wild-eyed accusations about us, but we couldn't comment, couldn't respond,
Exactly.
couldn't respond. Um, and that's when we started going back and forth. We would put out an article, he would put out an article, which was just nonsense. We shouldn't have been responding at all.
Right.
But all of that led you to one final conclusion about this guy. And what was that final conclusion?
That he was stupid. That he was a class 1 narcissist, and that it was all about the Kansas Clown.
Yeah. Now contrast that with what you found over on T4P. What you found with the people on this side.
With the people on this side, it was all about the message, all about the people that were listening. They were the ones who were important. They were the ones whose opinions were important. They were the ones that their interest was our number one concern.
So you found that the message from T4P was far more edifying than what you found on the other side?
Absolutely.
What about the depth of the content, the depth of knowledge of our Catholic faith and the principles of our Catholic faith and the depth of those principles? Was there a difference there?
There was a huge difference there because the clown didn't understand a bit about what he was telling people. It was clear by the fact that he would copy and paste something, and then the very next sentence would be a complete different direction from where he was going before.
Mm-hmm.
It was a complete about face where if A or B, but not both.
Mm-hmm. So he was contradicting himself within his own articles.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know, he was presenting one story, and then he turn around and present a completely opposite story where the two can't be the same in the same, you know, the very next paragraph or the very next sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And he just clearly had no clue what he was talking about and what he was doing.
Mm-hmm. But and then you ran across the stuff that was being produced by, let's start with William. Contrast. Tell me what William was offering in his content that this guy wasn't offering in his.
The truth of the Catholic Church, the truth of the Catholic faith. That's what William was offering that the clown was not.
And I mean, in specifics, was William just offering surface level stuff, or was he getting back into what the actual early church fathers taught and really getting down into the? In other words, what I'm trying to bring out here is that you very quickly found out
he was presenting the history and the whys and wherefores of what we believe. Not just this is what we believe, but we believe this because of this, and that.
Right, right. So his level of depth, his level of knowledge was far superior to the person on the other side.
Correct.
And yet, did William ever come across with this superiority complex that you encounter on the other side?
Negative. I never got a superiority complex from William.
who came across as a much more humble person, while at the same time being a much more knowledgeable, uh, informed person on the Catholic faith.
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever seen William counter principles of the Catholic faith? Where okay, the Pope said this, but I think the Pope is wrong on this, and I don't have to believe the Pope on this because you've heard the argument. These people that say only in these very rare specific purposes is the Pope speaking infallibly. Only when it's a full moon on a Tuesday and he's sitting in the chair and he's wearing the hat, and they try to take it down to all these granular things that have to happen. Basically, rejecting the Pope's authority 90% of the time. Did you ever see anything like that from William?
Negative.
How about Ken?
Nope. Never saw that from Ken either.
How about Luke?
Never.
How about Lisa?
Never.
How about myself?
Nope. And not Terry either.
Yeah. So your decision on which side to go with really wasn't a hard decision, was it?
It wasn't a hard decision at all. It was a very easy decision. Go with the side that's giving me the Catholic faith. Go with the side that shares my Catholic faith and wants to enrich and deepen my Catholic faith.
Yeah. One of the things that I always try to do, and I tried to do it over there too, and obviously it failed. I wasn't successful in getting this message apart. But one of the things that I've always tried to bring to the table is this idea that we're not speaking to you from an ivory tower. We're down in the trench with you.
Exactly.
Got to speak into people on that trench level. We're all in the same fight. There's a certain vulnerability you have to allow yourself to have in order to do that. You have to allow yourself to admit your faults, where you admit your shortcomings, admit areas where you struggle. Otherwise, it comes across as fake. Have you seen that authenticity in T4P?
I've seen the authenticity in the four persons. I've not seen it in the Clowns group.
Right.
Which, by the way, let's face it, the Clowns group is one person and one person by himself.
Which is amazing, because when I was running that group, we had probably 10 people. At one point, we had a large group of people. We had Ross Hoffman, we had Margie Proxendelar, we had Gregory Thompson. We had a large contingent of different contributors, and one by one, they've all dwindled. And getting down to the nuts and bolts, Richard, it's really about a couple of things. Number one, it's not sound Catholic teaching. He doesn't understand the Catholic faith well enough to convey it to somebody else.
Exactly.
Number two, his presentation is bland, dull, boring, and repetitive. Is that also fair to say?
That is very true.
Okay. And three, everything that he does is in the area of self-promotion. Always trying to draw the attention to himself. I'm up at this level and you're down at this level. That's kind of the way that he comes across. Okay. Given those three things, is it any wonder that nobody would want to gravitate to that?
Nope. It's not a surprise at all. Everybody that I know wants to gravitate towards something that's going to share their values and take their values seriously, not somebody that's going to tell you, this is what I believe, so you should believe this too. And by the way, if you disagree with him, he's going to run away crying like a little girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
And make everybody else think that you're the bully. Oh, John doesn't agree with me. He hurt my feelings so bad.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all the girls are going to go, oh, bad John.
Yeah. And contrast that to what we've had on this show, not only members, but some of the guests that we've had on this show, like Eric Tafoya and Terry Dill. Their stories are very similar.
Yes.
I mean, you talk about somebody that was lost and now is found. Okay. And there's a certain inspiration to that says, hey, listen, I was the lowest of the low. My life was a mess. My life was completely lost. And there's a certain authenticity in that vulnerability to say, I was in this dark place and the Lord reached me there. Okay.
Right.
As opposed to somebody who is saying, it's almost like, you remember the scene in the Gospels of the Pharisee and the reprobate?
Uh-huh.
The Pharisee spends all the time congratulating himself on how wonderful he is, and the reprobate would not even lift his eyes to heaven, but beat his chest and said, God, have mercy on me, a miserable sinner.
Right.
And you look at the people on the four persons, and they're all open about that. You have struggles that you face daily. Okay. Lisa struggles with chronic pain. Okay. You're very aware, and I've been very open about some of the struggles in my family life, things that I've gone through.
Yep.
Okay. And all of the members of the four persons have been very honest and open about that. So now that we've gotten through all of that, and now we talk about what the four persons is about, loving God with our whole heart, our whole mind, our whole soul, and our whole strength. Now that we've gotten through all of that, Richard, give me some ideas on where you'd like this podcast to go. What are the certain areas that you feel like we need to address that maybe aren't being addressed enough?
Well, I think we need to read the words of our popes, not just Leo the 14th, but we need to read John Paul II. We need to read John the 23rd, Paul the 6th. We need to, and it's not a matter of pick and choose. It's a matter of these are important because they're still living documents in our church.
Mm-hmm.
They are still the word. And something that I think gets forgotten in large measure in Catholic radio and Catholic TV is the catechism. We're not teaching it. We're not teaching people how to be Catholic. We're telling them we'll help them stay Catholic, but we're not teaching them how to be Catholic.
Interesting you bring up the catechism, because last year I made it a point to sit down and read the whole catechism.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I was struck by how cohesive it is. I figured it would read more like a textbook, that it would be a bunch of Catholic positions and a bunch of facts, laid out like a reference book. There's a cohesion to it from start to finish. It reads like the story of our Catholic faith, and each thought flows naturally and seamlessly into the next thought. Have you noticed that?
I have. That's because the catechism is really a biblical commentary.
Yeah.
It follows the Bible very closely.
Yeah. But it doesn't follow it in a bullet point footnote type of scenario, where it's 4,000 disconnected thoughts put down in a reference book.
Exactly.
It reads almost like a story. Each thought flows into the next thought, and it shows there is a cohesion to our Catholic faith. It does make sense. There is a cohesion. There is a a a direction to it, and maybe that is a good place to start. Maybe the Catechism is a good place to start because each one of those thoughts, when you fully flesh it out, can be made applicable to every person's situation.
Exactly.
Now, you and I have worked on a number of projects together.
We have
I just got to meet one of the members of the four persons personally in
Lewis.
Reading, Pennsylvania, Lewis, who was another one of the people that worked on it on our the case for Christmas,
Right.
and we also did the case for Easter and another of those projects. What are some of the other projects that you'd like us to kind of tackle on like a project level like that? Yeah,
I'd have to think about that. I hadn't thought about that. I'd like to see us do, uh, and I don't know how we would do it, but a project on each of the 265 men who have worn the white.
yeah.
Is it
Some of the information
260?
on some of them is kind of scarce.
Yeah.
We do the best we can. At a minimum, we could focus in on some of the more significant popes. And the interesting thing is, you look at the encyclical that Pope Leo XIV wrote, Magnifica Humanitas,
Mm-hmm.
and it really is a powerful encyclical. One of the things that jumps out at you is how many of these past popes he draws on from Leo the 13th forward. Um, and a lot of these popes release these encyclicals on the anniversary dates of some of the other encyclicals,
Yes.
as if to emphasize that they're pointing back to what this former pope says. And of course, his name. He took the name Leo the 14th. That's obviously obvious who he is pointing back to. So I think we're off to a good start here. I think that there's going to be a lot of topics that we can really go into deeply in sharing our Catholic faith. Richard, it's wonderful to be Catholic, isn't it?
It is wonderful to be Catholic.
And it's not something it's not wonderful because of you and me. It's a gift that's given to us, and that it has to be approached with profound humility and obedience. And when you look at how great our God is, you look how great our Savior is, and what He did for us, and what He does for us on a daily basis,
Mm-hmm.
there's really no room for arrogance, is there?
No.
Because if He left us for a minute, we'd be totally lost.
Yeah. That is absolutely 100% true.
I think we're off to a good start. I think this is going to be a great feature that we're going to have every Monday. And next Monday, when we do it, we'll start off by diving into the Catechism and fleshing the some of those parts out. Richard, would you leave us with a closing prayer?
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, you've told us that where two or more are gathered in your name, so too are you. We know that you have been with us, that you have inspired much of what we talked about and much of what has been discussed. And we know that you are with us always until the end of time. And Lord, we thank you for all that you do for us, because we know we can't do a thing for ourselves. It's all you. To you goes all the glory and all the praise and all the thanks. And God, thank you. We love you. Amen. In the name of the
Amen,
Father,
brother.
and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen, brother. Can't wait till next Monday to do it again.
I'm with you on that. It's going to be a lot of fun.
God bless you. Have a great week.
God bless you. Peace out.